Okay, let's dive in. We're unpacking a really fascinating cultural phenomenon today. We are talking about Shark Tank. You know, that show where entrepreneurs pitch their dreams? It can make or break a company like overnight.
It really can. It's been on since 2009 ABC Mark Burnett production.
Yeah.
It's become this icon of entrepreneurship for a lot of people. But our mission here really is to help you see past the TV drama.
Yeah.
We want to figure out why it's such a powerful opportunity, but also, honestly, a bit of a dangerous game for founders. It's a real double-edged sword.
Absolutely. And everyone knows the basics, right? And an entrepreneur comes out, they pitch the sharks, these super wealthy investors, they ask for money, offer up a slice of their company, their equity.
And then comes the grilling. Oh, the questions are tough. They want proof. Sales numbers, margins, why you think your company's worth that much.
If everything clicks, you get that handshake moment, looks great on TV.
But, and this is really crucial, that handshake, it's just the beginning. It's an agreement to start talking seriously. The research, the sources we looked at, they make it really clear. A lot of those deals you see, they don't actually close the way they look on screen. Or sometimes they don't close at all.
That's a huge point. We'll definitely circle back to that. But first, let's talk about the sharp edge. Why do entrepreneurs risk it all for that moment? What's the big pull?
Well, the immediate benefits are undeniable. Even if you walk away with nothing, no deal. The publicity alone can be, well, game-changing. Think about it. National television exposure.
Yeah.
Then there are reruns, streaming, clips go viral online. It's like setting off a controlled explosion of awareness for your brand.
People call it the Shark Tank bump.
That's the term, yeah. Companies talk about website traffic just exploding, maybe 1,000% up. Sales can spike massively right after the episode airs. It's a huge catalyst for growth that you just couldn't buy otherwise.
I mean, the marketing budget for that kind of reach would be millions. And here, it's potentially free. But okay, what if you do land a deal? It's more than just the cash, doesn't it?
Oh, much more.
Yeah.
Yes, you get the funding, which is often vital, but you're also getting access to that shark's brain, their experience, their contacts, their whole business machine. The sources really stress this. For a lot of the big successes that came out of the show, that partnership, the mentorship, that was way more valuable than the initial check.
So it's this combination, the money, the mentor, the massive exposure. It all comes together to potentially put a company on this incredibly fast track. You're basically leapfrogging years of trying to build that buzz slowly.
And don't forget the learning curve. Even the pitches that totally bomb, where they get torn apart. Those entrepreneurs are forced to get their numbers straight, defend their strategy, practice their pitch under, intense pressure. The research suggests that whole process, just preparing for it and going through it, makes you a sharper business person, deal or no deal.
But now we need to flip the coin. Let's talk about the blunt edge, the risks, the stuff you don't see so clearly when you're watching at home. And you mentioned it earlier that handshake isn't the end of the story.
Not even close. That's when the real work starts. It's called due diligence. Basically, after the cameras are off, the Sharks team comes in and does a deep, deep dive into the business. Finances, contracts, inventory, legal stuff, everything.
Like a financial audit on steroids?
Pretty much. And they're looking for any discrepancies, anything the entrepreneur maybe glossed over or didn't fully disclose in the pitch, flaws the cameras didn't catch.
So that celebratory moment could mean nothing.
It could. Or it could mean the terms change drastically. The sources show that happens a lot. The shark might come back and say, okay, based on what we found, I need more equity, or we need to add this other condition. Sometimes the deal just falls apart completely during this phase.
Wow. Okay, that's a major risk hidden in plain sight. What about that massive exposure we talked about? Can that actually hurt?
It absolutely can if you're not ready. The sources mention this specifically, free publicity hitting at the wrong time. Imagine you're like a two-person operation making something in your garage. Suddenly, boom, tens of thousands of orders flood in after the show.
Seems like a good problem to have.
Only if you can handle it. If your supply chain can't keep up, if your website crashes, if your customer service gets overwhelmed, it turns into a disaster. You end up with huge delays, angry customers demanding refunds, terrible online reviews. That amazing exposure suddenly poisons your brand.
So the dream scenario becomes a nightmare. Okay. What about the deal itself? Assuming it closes, what are the financial downsides? Are the sharks' terms seen as like predatory, or is it just business?
That's a really good question. The analysis suggests it's mostly amplified venture capital practice. It's tough, high-pressure negotiation. Sharks often push for terms that are very good for them. That usually means a significant chunk of equity, right? So the founder owns less of their own company, gets less of the profit down the road. Dilution, it's called.
Right.
And they also sometimes use these royalty structures where they take a cut of every single sale, maybe $1 per unit, until they hit a certain target.
Oof. That sounds like it could really squeeze the business, especially early on.
It can. We saw this specific story cited about a company where the equity plus the royalty was just so demanding it basically choked the business. It made it harder to raise more money later or just to grow properly. And beyond the money, you lose some control, don't you?
Yeah, that's the other side of it. Founders might find they have way less freedom than they thought. The investor has expectations, performance goals. You're not entirely your own boss anymore.
Precisely. And one more risk. Being on TV puts you, personally, under a microscope. There was this anecdote mentioned about a young founder whose product went viral after the pitch, but it also attracted a ton of really nasty personal online attacks and criticism. That public scrutiny can be brutal. It doesn't just go away.
Okay, so deals fall apart, success can kill you, the terms can be harsh, and you're suddenly living in a fishbowl. That leads us nicely into the whole narrative issue, doesn't it? Because Shark Tank is, at its heart, a television show. Entertainment comes first.
And that inherently creates distortions. The sources we looked at flagged some serious concerns about the editing process. You hear allegations from people who worked on the show or entrepreneurs who were on it saying the footage is heavily cut and spliced. They manipulate it to create maximum drama, maximum conflict.
So what you see isn't necessarily the full picture.
Apparently not always. One insider quote was pretty stark, saying it's structured more like a scripted show in terms of creating heroes and villains and, those dramatic moments.
Which means you, as the entrepreneur, could end up looking, I don't know, foolish or arrogant or something else entirely, just because it made for better TV, even if that wasn't the reality in the room.
Exactly. It could potentially damage your professional reputation outside the show. And this feeds into some of the broader criticisms about the sharks themselves and the show's environment.
Yeah, talk about the investors. Their behavior gets scrutinized too, right?
Constantly. Some sharks, Kevin O'Leary has often mentioned, have faced lawsuits or significant public criticism for their business dealings outside the tank. Their on-screen persona is tough, but sometimes their real-world reputation is, complicated.
Which leads to another risk, maybe more for the audience. This idea that just appearing on the show guarantees success.
That's a really misleading narrative. The show naturally focuses on the wins or the dramatic flameouts. But the reality, confirmed by the research, is that plenty of companies featured on the show still fail later on. Or the deal they took wasn't actually that great for them in the long run. You see these articles pop up all the time tracking the Shark Tank failures. It's a reminder that getting on the show is just one step, not the finish line.
And there are other sort of fairness questions too, like third-party sellers hijacking the brand.
Yeah, that's a weird one. People selling stuff online, maybe on Amazon or somewhere, falsely claiming their product was featured on Shark Tank or got a deal. It confuses customers, and it hurts the legitimate companies that actually went through the process. It shows how once your brand gets that TV exposure, you kind of lose control over how it's used or misused out there.
Okay, so when you put it all together.
It paints a really complex picture, doesn't it? Shark Tank sits right at this strange intersection.
So the big takeaway seems to be, yes, it can be an amazing opportunity, a huge accelerator, but it is absolutely not a magic bullet. It doesn't guarantee anything. And it certainly doesn't replace the need for solid fundamentals, a good product, knowing your numbers, having a real plan.
It seems like the real make or break stuff happens after the cameras stop rolling. It's all about execution, managing that growth.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener. We focused on getting into the tank and maybe getting a deal, but given everything we've discussed, especially that risk of the Shark Tank bump overwhelming a business, what specific operational things do you think an entrepreneur needs to have absolutely nailed down before they even think about pitching? Forget the perfect pitch deck for a second. What about logistics? Inventory, staffing. It seems like the biggest potential drama might actually happen completely off camera, in the warehouse or the customer service department. What needs to be ready before the spotlight hits? Something to think about.